I can understand today. I can definitely see where relationships are so important.
Mhm.
And because, we all go through walks in life. We all have ups and downs,
Oh, yeah.
and not everybody has that person that they can go to or somebody that they can necessarily trust or somebody they can simply open up to and be transparent with.
Hello and welcome to episode 9 of LongStory Short Podcast, a collection of side hustles, cool jobs, and interesting hobbies from your coffee shop regulars. Today we're sitting with Curt Poling of the Blessed Bee Company, and we're going to learn a little bit about his background of how he came from laying bricks to auto sales to running his own power washing company until finally finding his passion in beekeeping. Curt's very passionate about his work and is innovating new ways of making honey, including some spiced honeys and some smoked honeys and different things that he is offering with these. So listen up and find out a new passion about beekeeping. So today I am here with Curt Poling of the Blessed Bee. He is our honey guy. He is Clara Bee's honey guy. You probably heard him shout it out on Clara Bee's podcast episode a few episodes back. She was giving props to him, but I've always been interested in honey because I know that there's so many things that have to all come together just to have honey. And like honeybees are a thing that you hear them on the news, in waves of like, we have to save the bees. We have to save the bees. That's a big thing. But learning a little bit more about you, Curt, and how you got started and where it came to be. So are you originally from the area?
No, originally from Canton, Ohio.
Really? Okay. So grew up then over in Ohio your whole life and
Partly Canton, Ohio and Rolla, Missouri.
okay, where Canton close to? I know like the three kind of like the Cincinnati, Cleveland, and what's the other big one? Columbus, Ohio. Mm-hmm. So like where are we at location wise for Canton?
So about 55 miles south of Cleveland.
Okay. I guess family is from that area or
Canton, Ohio.
Yeah. And then moved to Rolla?
Moved to Rolla, Missouri.
Okay. College or?
No, my dad. I was a kid, teenager, moved out there with my dad when I was 13 years old. Stayed out there till I was 18 and then went back to Ohio for a little bit, and then kind of bounced back and forth until I figured out what I wanted to do in life.
Yeah. So, early years growing up, did you have a bunch of different hobbies? Like what was Curt as a kid? Sports guy, hobby guy, anything? No?
On the contrary, actually, quite the contrary, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally opposite, man. Really. It's maybe a different story for another time.
Okay. Yeah. So, so then,
however,
yes,
I would like to share.
Okay.
I do recall at the age of 4, in Canton, Ohio, we lived on a street called Greenfield.
Okay.
And there was a little round hole that was on the other side of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And it was always admirable from a distance. Honey, there were bumblebees that were yellow jackets, whatever they were, coming in and out.
Yeah.
And I would always watch them from a distance. One time I got a little too close and they circled around me.
Yeah.
And I freaked out and I took off running. I probably had 20, 30 stings. They were stinging me, stuck down my shirt, on my pants, on my neck.
So just from being too close to the hive, no.
I was literally maybe 6, 7 feet, maybe from the hive that was in the ground. And it was kind of a bizarre. It was a perfect circle that they were flying around me. Yeah. And as a 4-year-old kid, freaked me out. And from that point forward, I had no interest in bees. Zero.
Yeah. There was the insects were not something that you wanted to play around with at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially bees. Yeah.
So out of high school, did you what would you go into from high school years then? Where did life take you right out of there?
I was in sales for a little bit, manual labor. Okay. My first job out of high school would have been I was a mason tender, hod carrier, bricklayer.
Yeah.
I did that for a long time. And then quickly went into sales.
That's a change.
Once I learned a little difference of who Curt was, I guess.
Yeah.
And my passion for whatever it might be.
Yeah. So, I mean, bricklaying's kind of a trade that it's a much needed trade too. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It's something I know, like, we have to get tuck pointing done on our house. And I just know getting people and getting quotes out there for bricklaying, like, it's kind of pricey to get people out there, especially hearing that not everyone is good at bricklaying.
That's right. That's exactly right.
How long did you do bricklaying for?
I wasn't a bricklayer. I was a laborer.
Oh, okay.
I was a bricklayer's laborer. Probably 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did that entitle? You were just assisting on the job sites with them?
Yep. Okay. Mix and mortar, getting the bricklayer's blocks, setting up scaffolding.
Yeah.
Go down and work on a Sunday to set up scaffolding in Columbia, Missouri at the time.
Yeah.
For the jobs that we had coming up that week. It was a lot of fun,
Yeah. Young kid. I mean, being able to be out in physical labor,
it was
right?
Nice.
You don't mind it as much.
No.
And then, so what kind of sales were you doing then afterwards?
So I got into publishing, worked for a company in North Canton, Ohio, Carmel Publishing. They had a Homes magazine. Went around to different companies asking for advertising.
Yeah.
Covered over into Parkersburg, West Virginia, Clarksburg.
So traveled quite a bit then.
Traveled Zanesville, Ohio. I was Westerville, Ohio, Grove City. And then after that, I tried car sales for a couple years. Yeah. I mean, it was good. It was okay. Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't for me.
I think it's like a niche job that you have to be in. Like, you got to be pushy, right? Like,
so, I mean, I'll be totally transparent. Yeah. So for me, I was too honest in selling. Literally. I mean, I sold a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Made a lot of money doing it in the couple of years I was in, but it as mentioned, it's a different world.
Yeah.
It really is. There's a lot of how would you say it? Backstabbing. There's a lot of, throats that were being cut as a result.
I mean,
within the sales field.
Yeah. The whole point of it is, you want to make the company as much money as possible. It's not always about the customer getting the best deal, right?
Correct.
So it's like a conscious thing of like, you have to be okay with that yourself. Of like, I'm the type of person that's okay with this customer knowing that I just got $2,000 more out of them that I probably, needed to, but now I made the company more money.
That's right. Well, for me though, it was always about relationships.
Yeah.
It was always about, building the relationship, finding out about the person.
Yeah.
Kind of going from there,
I'm guessing you get to see kind of all walks of life come into the door from there, like working a sales job. Like,
sure. Sure.
People are going to tell you about themselves. They're making a big major purchase. So
right.
they're going to open up and tell you, about, this is what I do for a living, and this is why I need this vehicle, and I got this, how big of a family, I'm guessing, things like that, right?
Yeah. And you'd be amazed at the things that people actually shared.
Yeah.
About their personal life. Things would go deep really quick. To the point to where maybe somebody was having some issues and potentially wanted prayer or something maybe to talk about.
Yeah.
And it was really neat how conversations a lot of the time went that direction.
Yeah. So you kind of found out from doing that like that was that aspect of it you really enjoyed.
Oh, most definitely.
But the other side, the savvy sales guy kind of stuff, not as much up your
not interested at all. No.
So how long did you do the like sales jobs for? So you were
I would say I was in sales maybe 8 years.
Okay.
Maybe 8 years, yeah.
So you're at a high school area, you did your you did brickwork for like 4, and then you did sales for like another 8. Mm-hmm. So you're coming into your early 30s at this point.
Yep.
And making a kind of a career transition again.
Still didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, quite honestly, I started using drugs at an early age.
Okay.
And that's the journey that I chose in life.
Yeah.
A lot of deep-rooted issues that I was trying to mask and simply didn't want to deal with. I didn't have channels in my life at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't have outlets to where I could go to potentially talk to somebody about whatever I was dealing with and whatever I had went through, the trauma or whatever the case might be. Getting into my early 30s, I took a break from work out in the field for a job. I went to work with my dad. He had a detail shop, and that was at the tail end of my drug use.
Was he growing up? Was he always kind of on that? Was he did like automotive, auto body stuff? Is that kind of why you guys moved back and forth, or
no? So my dad and mom divorced at an early age.
Yeah.
And my dad ended up meeting a woman that was from Rolla, Missouri, and he was a machinist by trade.
Yeah.
For a company in Canton, Ohio, and he got laid off. And it was my sister and I and two stepbrothers, and got to do something.
Yeah.
So, things took a different turn as a result, and we wound up in Rolla, Missouri at some point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that all happened.
But he moved back as well.
He stayed in Rolla. My dad's
okay.
My dad's still in Rolla, actually.
Okay, so you were working. You were because you said you were doing sales kind of back in Canton again, right? For a while, and then you moved back to Rolla again.
I was doing sales in Rolla. I did furniture sales for about a year.
Yeah.
That was a bizarre journey. Furniture sales. Yeah. That was a trip. So
and then worked for your dad's detail shop.
Yeah, I was in my early 30s. Yeah, I did that for a year, less than a year. It was through spring and summer and maybe part of a winter. And then I got sober, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, got sober at 33 years old. I haven't looked back. Got sober December 28th, 2004.
Wow. 20 years?
Almost. Coming up.
That's
December 28th to be 20 years. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And then 5 months later, I had this God-given passion.
Yeah.
And it was power washing.
Really? I thought you were going to say Beekeeper.
No.
I was waiting for that side of things.
No.
Power washing.
Power washing. So I started power washing business.
Yeah.
My sponsor at the time in Alcoholics Anonymous, great man, co-signed for me a loan on a car and gave me $1,300 cash. Did not want the money back. And he said, go start your business.
Okay.
So I bought a power washer from Northern Tool and Equipment. They had it delivered, and I drove around, and I think it was a 2003 Dodge Neon. Lugged a power washer in out of the backseat of my Neon for 2 years.
Wow. People probably pulled up and...
Washing FedEx trucks.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. Had some family that worked for FedEx Ground in Rolla, Missouri, and they got me in. I started washing trucks, and then before you know it, I went on to washing trash trucks for Waste Corporation. Car lots.
FedEx they're pretty big in Rolla, aren't they? I think they've got a hub or something out there,
yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And that was the hub I worked out of, or that I power washed. I did that for almost 9 years.
I will say power washing, it's a very satisfying thing to watch too.
Yeah.
I know to do on one end, I feel like it's satisfying the practice of power washing.
Sure.
But I'll catch myself, on the social media scroll, and then you catch somebody that's like power washing something and just watch them go across in the line.
It's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like hypnotic just watching that.
Yeah.
I could see why that would be a fun thing to do. Weather dependent would be for me, but I'm guessing it's a year round thing, right?
It depends. If it's depends on how far below freezing it is outside.
Yeah.
Because obviously you got to be careful with number one, water. Freezing, expanding, breaking things. But the other thing too is the liability factor. If I'm spraying water and it gets on the ground, turns to ice, and it's obviously a liability.
Yeah.
So you don't want to cause that
in front of a truck, and
the
truck itself has a sheet of ice on top of it.
Yeah, and the companies I work for, they really, for whatever reason, they don't like that. Kind of like, what?
Yeah. So I mean,
charge an admission, man. Come on.
So for the power washing, then. You said it's your business that you started out with. Did it grow? Like, did you end up was it a bigger business that you ended up hiring on people, or was it always just Curt, the power washing guy?
So we had, there were people that helped me, and we had, working for us employees. But they were people like me before I got sober.
Oh, okay.
They
were walking their path.
I had a heart for those people, man. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, they still do today.
Yeah.
To the point to where, I believed a lot more in them than what they believed in themselves. I had more hopes for them, I think, than what they were able to envision.
Yeah.
And there were maybe one or two success stories that came of that. When my dad and he used to help me do some of my book work, because it got a little bit overwhelming for me once business started picking up.
I can understand that 100%.
93 employees in 1 year we went through.
Oh.
93.
How many are active usually at one time?
9.
So that's
7 to 9.
Yeah.
Yes. 93 in a year. Yeah. I just really different. But the amazing part is I was able to interact with those people at whatever level.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about them, but I also learned how to be a better person, and I attribute all that to what God has done in my life. Hence my sobriety. That's where things are for me. It wouldn't be for God, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I remember like it was yesterday what happened that December 27th. It was a divine intervention. I was in a place in Canton, Ohio. I was partying for over the Christmas holiday season.
Yeah.
Had a pile of money in my pocket. Guy across town owed me money. Had drugs, alcohol, and there was an actual spiritual encounter that told me to choose life or death now.
Wow.
And I chose life, made a phone call, and I was on my way back to Rolla, Missouri. Came back to an empty apartment.
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend at the time, she was pregnant, and her dad and hers, they'd had enough. So they packed her up while I was out partying and took her back to Apple Creek, Ohio.
Okay.
So that was a much different journey. But as a result of that, the broken heart and the brokenness is what truly was my bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at a point, I was in my apartment after, I didn't go into my apartment for probably a week. I slept for 5 days.
It's just the weird feeling, right?
Yep.
It's almost like it's not your home anymore kind of deal.
Yep. And when I walked in, I backed up against the wall and just broke down, bawled, cried. I mean, it was, unhinged. And that's when I realized at that point in time that I had totally lost control. And once I realized that obviously God was the only one that could put me on back on my feet, that's where the journey started. It hasn't been easy since then. I made a lot of mistakes in the meantime. I have not arrived, and I won't arrive until I actually do, once I'm dead and gone, and get to meet God personally. So, that's been a real, I guess you would say, pinnacle for me in my life. That's been what has allowed me to continue to move on and in my journeys. And, going back to like the sales days, and now that I'm reflecting in our conversation, the people that have talked to me in depth about personal problems that they've had in life or that they were going through, whether it be husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe they lost a mom, lost a dad, lost children. I can understand today. I can definitely see where relationships are so important. Mm-hmm. And because, we all go through walks in life. We all have ups and downs.
Oh, yeah.
And not everybody has that person that they can go to, or somebody that they can necessarily trust, or somebody they can simply open up to and be transparent with. So,
yeah. And sometimes it's, I buy in a car and I feel like maybe I'm never going to see this guy again. And I've got something going on in my life, and you're my bartender right now almost.
Sure. And the cool part about it all is nothing has changed today as a result.
Yeah.
It really hasn't. I mean, there's there's a big corporation that we're contracted with, that we do a lot of business with. And there's, in this corporation, there are people who have opened up and shared. There was a woman that her son had overdosed and passed away.
Yeah.
Was able to pray with her over the phone. It's not about business, and it doesn't always have to be about business.
And I think almost that's the way that people are successful is it's not only about the business, it's about the relationships that you make with people too.
Yeah. There's an old saying that I truly like, and it says, if we will be about God's business, then he will be about our business.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. So that's really, there's so much truth to that, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
So how the power washing company, did that what was the change? Because, you said you were doing that for about 9 years, running this business with employees and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Where was there a certain point where you kind of had, something just came to you that you were like, I want to do something different? Or was there a guiding factor that kind of forced it into a different path, or what ended up happening there?
So when we got out of the 9 years with FedEx, they were going through some changes. I had made some mistakes along the way, and it was simply better if I go a different direction. It simply wasn't going to be profitable. So the nice part is I believe he was a senior executive at that point. It kind of gave me a heads up in advance. Hey, this is coming down the pike.
Yeah.
You might want to look at something different. They were simply going through a much different change.
I feel like that's the shipping era was kind of happening then, right? Like everything was blowing up.
So, right. Well, it was their structure, the way they structured things. The responsibility of the job that I was doing was no longer going to be on them. It was going to be passed off to contractor.
Yeah.
So quickly went to school. Quickly went into another division, I guess you would say, of power washing. I went to school in Tennessee, took a class, and got certified to do exhaust hoods at restaurants.
Yeah.
So I did that for a short period of time. Still tried to run the day crew, and then also at nighttime. Didn't get much sleep. And that lasted about 5 years.
Well, because I'm assuming if you're doing like the exhaust hoods and stuff, it's either late night after people close or early morning before they're open, right?
It's all right after they close. It's all right after they close. I mean, it's
and it's got to be done.
It's horrible work, man. It's horrible work.
It is.
My heart goes out to the guys that are still doing it.
Like, imagine. I'm sure it's not as bad, but I know those guys that come in and do the grease traps because I see them come in here every once in a while. And I'm like, I know that food opening up those food waste things, and I'm sure cleaning out those hood vents, what builds up in there. It's probably not pretty work.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. So I did that. I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and then my long-term goal was I wanted to be up into St. Louis. When I first started, I wanted to be towards the city. Yeah. So, that's where it was for me.
Was there a draw for, because coming from Canton, Ohio, going to Rolla, Rolla's kind of, people I feel like make weekend trips, over to St. Louis and stuff. But what was the draw for St. Louis area?
Well, I realized quickly that I can only grow so big in Rolla. Where I truly wanted to be and where I wanted to go was and Rolla's a great place, don't get me wrong, but it's a small town feel.
And it's the college, right?
Right.
Basically, it's a town built around that college in a way.
Missouri S&T.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there were, I had to travel a lot for work.
Yeah.
Which I got used to real quick. I was okay with that, but that's where I had to go. I had to travel however the distance was. So Aurora, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, Eldon, Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks,
and your
Jefferson City,
closest distance that you're probably
Jefferson City, an hour away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nuts. It was
like being in St. Louis to where you're 15, 20 minutes away from a lot of places. And an hour is when you're really driving out to go to somewhere. You're like, oh, I got to go all the way out to like Washington or something. That's 50 minutes away.
Yep.
That's the long drive.
Yep. And we used to go to Washington. There was a dealership out there, Chris Offenberg, Jim Trineri, Barrett Ford, Barrett Chrysler. We would wash their cars every week.
Yeah.
It was me and usually, I don't know, however many guys.
Guess I don't think about the fact of, these car dealerships. It's a lot of vehicles for them to keep looking good, and probably don't want to have to do it. Why have the staff on hand and all the, equipment needed and all that kind of stuff when you could just pay somebody to come out and do it for you.
That's right. So, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't even think about those people needing their cars clean all the time, probably.
Yep. So, that lasted until about 2019. Late 2018, though, out of nowhere, I had a passion for bees. Now, obviously, remember the story when I was a kid. Usually, if I go power wash a house and there's a beehive or a wasp nest, I guess you would say, in the corner of somebody's house, I'd quickly pick up the phone, and simply let the customer know, hey, when you take care of that problem, I'll come back.
Yeah. It was even at that point in time.
No.
Like,
no interest. Absolutely. No interest. So, when that passion came in late 18, the following year, I got 5 beehives.
Just started out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere.
Doing some research and
out of nowhere, man. Really. It was, there was a gentleman that I had contacted. He gave me a brief introduction, but the rest truly was all God inspired.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my teacher, and that still is my teacher today.
Yeah.
As a result, it's, in late 19, we closed down the other crews that we had power washing. Spring of that year, let everybody know, hey, 2019 fall this year, we're done.
Yeah.
I'm going to be riding, we're going to be up in St. Louis. That business is taken off at that point, and which would be mainly into residential house washing.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to go to the Big Island of Hawaii. My wife and I got married in Oahu, North Shore, and we went over to the Big Island.
Yeah.
On a vacation, and I met a beekeeper over there, and he opened his home, and I went out there and stayed for 4.5 weeks. 1,300 beehives. I had my crash course into learning how to deal with bees.
Yeah.
It was an amazing place. It was on the Hilo side of the Big Island, and a lot of rain at night. From my understanding and my research, where I stayed was built as a fallout shelter back in the early 70s. There were a bunch of different types of orange trees. They had coconut trees that were on this property. It was a 6 acres in the middle of a jungle, as in essence, on a rock.
Beautiful.
Oh, it was gorgeous, man. It was gorgeous. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I had gaps in the doors below me. I had 2 big rats that were living inside with me.
Well, it wasn't, the modern living out there, but
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. I mean, being able to come home each night after working bees, pick up avocados from the ground. I mean, it was just pretty amazing what was available on that little piece of property.
Yeah.
So that's where I truly learned bees.
So you said you came home, you picked up five hives of your own?
5 hives. That was the same year that I went over to Hawaii. Yep. Yeah. And then, I really didn't know what was going on with these 5 hives. I had no idea. I'd pop them open and it looked cool. And sounded great. The noise, but I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely no idea what I was doing. So Hawaii, like I said, was really where I started.
You have the 5 hives before you left for Hawaii?
Yeah.
So it was what you made the purchase, and then you said, I knew, you're like, this is what I want to do. I need to figure out how to get better.
Yeah.
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 And so coming home, were the hives still alive?
Yeah. We had all but one made it.
Okay.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was really neat.
Was it such a difference then when coming back and seeing the hives? Like,
Yeah.
you were just like, I know all of this. I know everything. Like,
It's not that I knew everything or I felt that, but it was nice that I could actually get in and I could see the hive and I could assess what was potentially going on inside of a hive.
Yeah.
You know, if I opened a hive and I see the queen that's on the inside, which, you know, if you've got in the springtime back then, you know, I'm trying to look for a queen and there's 80 to 100,000 bees in this hive. I'm looking for one bee, one queen, you know.
You think you know what it looks like,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, I learned what it looked like and I could capture it real fast when I was over there, but it was like, yeah, it was a crash course and hey, here it is.
Yeah.
So as time went on, I've done some research. I've listened to a couple different, I guess you would say, mentors. They're commercial beekeepers that have shared with me of what they've done. One's in Georgia, another one's on the Big Island, and then there's one other one that is almost up into Wisconsin. He's, I guess, be northwestern Illinois, but I learned a tremendous amount. So this is my 5th season.
Okay.
Going into my 4th year on my own. We had 33 hives that we went into winter last year. 5 of them didn't survive. So we've got 28 beehives. Our goal is 70 this year.
That's a big increase.
That is a huge increase, and it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
So,
how much land does each beehive require? Like, is there property?
So from what I've gathered on commercial beekeepers, 2 hives per acre.
Okay.
Is typically what you look at.
So you're looking at 35 acres worth of land for the 70 hives that you're wanting to have.
Right. And I've heard different numbers. I've heard bees can travel 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
Up to 5 miles.
I love the difference. It's like 1.5 miles versus 5 miles. Is a huge difference.
I'm with you. I'm like, what do you believe? But there's different areas where we have beehives, which I think would get into real quickly of the difference in the tastes of honey.
Yeah.
Which would be from whatever pollen they're bringing in, nectar source. I know what I learned quickly in Hawaii is most of the blooms that the bees are bringing in from are tree-based. So, and I know once I've started learning here recently on the different trees that they can bring things in and the different times of year.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing to look at. It's probably where I want to have beehives in those areas.
Yeah.
That's going to be.
So are you looking for areas then that like there's local farmers and stuff like that where like, oh, if we set up within, a couple miles of this farmer in the area that will probably have good honey production, or is it, how do you figure out like where you want to place your hives at then?
It's not necessarily by the farmers, at least for me. It hasn't been about the farmers. It's more of what's in the area.
Okay.
What trees are in the area, what you see blooming in the area. Usually go and try to see like a mile radius from where you're at. And then if there's obviously the proper protein and carbohydrates that they need for survival, then that's a good spot to have them.
Okay. And then, so I know I've looked and seen like certain honeys, they'll always say like wildflower honey, or that's the only one coming to mind. There's different types, right? And I mean, how does that work? Are there people that have hives and they just know that like we only grow certain pollinating plants in the area versus just like ones that are more of just naturally of what these bees are feeding on, what's in the area? We're not forcing them kind of to feed on certain things, because isn't there different types of honey based on what they're eating?
So what I've learned, and in my understanding thus far, let's take an orange blossom honey.
Yes. Okay, that's another one. Yep,
so orange blossom honey would be They're orange trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they're, like over in, when you say wildflower honey, you say wildflower because you can't determine all the floral sources.
Okay.
That's why it's called wildflower. It's whatever they're bringing in.
Yeah.
You know, they might be bringing in lavender, could be clover, could be winged sumac, could be something from a sugar maple tree. I mean, there's all types of different things that they're bringing in. One of the things I really enjoyed about Hawaii was the different flowers and the different seasons that they had. So they have a Christmas berry.
Mm-hmm.
They have, and they can, I don't know what the pollen source is.
Yeah.
From my understanding, it's 60, 70% or greater. And that's how they can name that particular honey.
Yeah.
And
you can't guarantee that these bees are only going to those sources.
Right. Right. But Christmas berry was one, macadamia nut. I was able to, there was a guy that had beehives over by the macadamia nut farm, and it was simply rows and rows of macadamia nut trees. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then they have another one called Ohia Lehua, which is a really cool tasting honey. So, and that would be, there's a lot of those honeys that are used in the mead making industry.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen those where they definitely, they'll boast about in the mead of like, this is only this type of honey in it, which 70 to 80% of that type of honey.
Sure.
Basically then, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, I mean, do you notice when it comes to your honeys, then does seasonality play on the flavor aspect of it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what kind of changes do you see in it?
So what I see mostly is the color.
Yeah.
That's what you can see, physical appearance.
Mm-hmm.
The honey in the springtime that I've seen for our hives, has more of a light floral taste. As time goes on, getting closer to the fall, it gets darker and more pungent flavor. And they're night and day difference. It's apples and oranges.
Yeah. Is it like a gradual change too, to where, you might not notice it personally if you're having the honey over time, like, every couple weeks you're having it, you don't notice how slow and gradual changes. But if you were to take the spring first harvest and then your last harvest of honey and compared them next to each other, you'd be like, oh, these quite different now, kind of deal. Or
so it would be, for me, it's been it's been a very noticeable change.
Yeah.
Because you can definitely, even though that there might still be honey in the hive. So let's say that there were, I think what the best. So the first part of the year, there are black locust trees. Mm-hmm. That bloom only comes on for a couple weeks, from my understanding. And you can, once that honey comes in, that black locust honey you'll want to pull.
Yeah. Because
you don't want it mixing with all the other stuff that they're coming in. So for that reason, yes, there's a drastic difference.
Okay.
But if you simply if you don't pull your honey and you let it kind of mix together, then it's a simple blend.
Okay. Do you pull that first?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is that one of your favorites?
It's one of the honeys that at Marketplace you can get top dollar for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that season's coming up soon then. That's the
very soon.
First part of the season then?
Yeah. Yeah. We've got there's 16 acres where there's a lot of black locust trees, and we've got beehives on that. We've had beehives on that for about 3 years in Fairview Heights, Illinois.
Okay. And then, so whenever you add these new hives in, how soon do they start producing? Is it immediately? Like, does it take some time for them to kind of establish themselves and grow? Or
what I've seen is whenever I place a hive somewhere, they simply get at it.
Yeah.
I mean, they go after it. I mean, that's what they're designed to do. And if there's nothing that's wrong with the hive, they're gonna go out and they're gonna collect pollen. They're gonna collect nectar. They're gonna produce honey.
Just immediately, just
Oh yeah,
right away.
yeah. They're gonna, they'll go out and they'll find the source. They'll come back, and I don't know the actual dance, but there's a dance that the bees do, and it is from my understanding, it is a dance that shares the navigation of where the source is. And the other bees simply know, and they chase after it.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, so harvesting wise, then I guess that took a lot, right? To get into, and like, is that the hardest part of it? Is like, you start the hive and you're like, okay, I've got a beehive, and then the intimidating, scary part is like, I've got to open this thing up. I've got to protect myself. I've got to protect the bees in the hive at the same time, and I got to get this honey out of here. Like, what was your first experience at that? Like, we're gonna go and harvest our first hive. Do you remember it?
I do. I remember harvesting. So I used to run what they call deep boxes. I don't know the exact measurement, but the difference between a deep and a medium box, you'll get maybe 40, 50 pounds of honey.
Okay.
A deep box, you could get upwards of 100 pounds of honey. So I used to run deeps.
Okay.
And I learned real quick, don't do that.
Why is that?
It's heavy. It's heavy. The first box that I pulled, I just wrenched my back. I mean, it was a sharp pain that shot down through and put me out of commission for about a week and a half.
So how do these pull? Do they pull like upward? Do they pull out? How are
upward?
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have handles, but they take a saw and they saw on the outside of the box to where there's a lip to where you can get your fingertips
kind
underneath.
Of like the old like file cabinets, right? Where your like file folders are hanging off on the side of them, and you got to wrench one of those up. And it's what you said, 80 to 100 pounds that you're just
on the deep boxes. Yeah. Yeah. That was crazy. I mean, I realized real fast that this is not the way to go.
How do people is it just a 2-person jobs like for people that have those, or like how do they?
One person. Well, but that's where I quickly learned that, you don't use deeps for honey supers.
Yeah.
Use the smaller box. It's more manageable. So in that respect, we switched over to mediums the following year. When we got the honey boxes, that is a challenge. And then the other challenge to that is to try not to be so messy, at least for me.
Okay.
Honey's sticky, and anywhere you get it, it goes wherever you go. And it's to where your hands, if you open a doorknob, if you flip on a switch somewhere, I mean, and you got honey, it's there. So you have to, go back after yourself.
So how does
wiping up?
So you get the box out.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get the honey from the box?
So you pull each individual frame, and you only pull it if it's got a cap over the honey, a wax cap. What that means is that the honey is below a moisture content that is safe.
Okay.
Higher moisture content or water content, that's where you get into fermenting.
Okay.
Anything above 18.5%. So typically we pull, I've had them as high as 17.5, and we've been as low as 14%. Mm-hmm. So if it's got a wax cap on it, it's okay to extract. So you've got a tool that you take that wax cap off. Mm-hmm. Then you put it in a honey extractor, and what it does is it's you can either get a manual or motorized, and it spins.
And
the honey goes out into the stainless steel tank.
Yeah.
And it goes at the bottom, and then you've got a little spout at the bottom. They call them honey gates. And you pull it up, and then you simply have strainers. We use 400, 200, and 100 micron strainers.
Because there's like
to strain the honey.
Some people sell like raw, unfiltered honey, right? And then there's everything. Yours is like the filtered, clear honey, right? Getting all the different particulates out of it.
Sure. You're gonna have bee parts in there. You're gonna have wax. You don't want that.
I know. That's when I see those things for sale sometimes of like the raw unfiltered honey, and I'm like, I don't know if I want like, it's bee arm or antenna or.
So you're not going to have anything like that.
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
On there. I don't know what the micron is that would necessarily take out the enzymes of the honey, or should I say, not the enzymes, but anything that would filter out honey. My understanding with the enzymes, if you get your honey to a certain temperature, then you'll cook those enzymes out of the honey. And I guess that's really what people are looking for from local. If you get local honey, it helps with allergies.
That's one thing I was going to ask you about. Is I've heard that myth of the honey. It's, I guess, what acclimating you to the local pollen kind of deal. Is that what the
exactly
idea
what
behind it is?
Yep.
You're like micro dosing yourself with pollen every time you're having that honey.
Pretty much. So have you ever eaten honey to where you first taste and it kind of, you get that burnness or scratchiness in your throat?
Yeah.
That's something that your body's not used to.
So that's the
pollen, and that's
allergic. You've got a slight allergy to because your body's not acclimated to it yet.
Right.
But then you said all of yours is local. So that means
local to its region.
Yeah. So if you're in this area and you're having Blessed Bee honey, then you're going to be building up your tolerance to allergies at the same time.
That's right. That's right. Yep. So, and then once the extraction is done, then we'll take the honey boxes back out that are empty, and I put them back on the hives.
And
they clean them up.
Start filling them right back up?
No, what they'll do is they'll clean them up. And if they need to rebuild the cell walls where the honey actually goes into, then they'll rebuild those cell walls.
Now, what about the beeswax? You said that there's that coat of beeswax. Is there I see beeswax things. Is there a use for that beeswax then? Or do you have a use for your beeswax or not yet? Is that a plan?
We do actually. So we render the wax down to where all particles and all dirt is out of it as much as we can get. And we use our beeswax in, we have a hand salve that we make out of oils and beeswax, and then a lip balm as well.
And it's all natural, local beeswax then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it's cool that you're able to get more than just the one product from the bees on that end too.
Yeah. And that's about the only two products that we do at this time. We don't do pollen. There's some people that do pollen, some people that do propolis.
Okay.
Which from my understanding, propolis is, I know that's what they seal their hive up with. It's almost like a glue. But it's real sticky and tacky. But to get that from trees and leaves of the trees, I don't know if there's tree bark in there or any type of, I never studied into that, but I know that I've heard claims that what propolis does, like for sore throats, toothaches.
Okay, so I was imagining that this would be a product that they might use in like adhesives or something like that, but this is still like a consumable product. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a lot harder to extract that stuff then, or
again, I'm not familiar. The beeswax we use and the honey we use.
Yeah.
Anything outside of it, I have not dove into.
Yeah, that's you got your focus right now is on the growth of the hives, right? Getting more hives out there. Getting
more beehives, but also learning more about beekeeping, healthy beekeeping. So typically I'm only in the hives maybe once a month, every 3 to 4 weeks. They survive well out in the wild. Yeah. Why would I want to do anything different, outside of that? I know I was quickly told that the more you're in a beehive or you open up a beehive, the further you set the beehive back.
I mean, I'm guessing they get agitated.
Sure.
Disruptions, right?
Yep.
They've got their daily life and they don't need somebody yanking a section of their home out just to check on them.
Yeah, there's people that ask me, well, about the hives, or, they say, oh yeah, I've been in them, twice this week. And I just want to ask you a question. Would you like it if somebody pulled the roof off of your house twice a week?
Yeah.
I know that's a little bizarre, but it's in essence, I think I've learned to appreciate their environment. I really have. I mean, it's extremely therapeutic to be into a beehive. To open one up and simply listen and watch. It's captivating, mesmerizing, and something that I truly, truly enjoy. But when it comes to honey extraction and pulling those, I typically wear a veil,
Yep.
or sometimes I don't wear anything at all.
Really?
If I'm checking for certain things, if I'm not going to be deep down in the hive, if I'm popping open and I want to see, there's certain times of the day that I'll go into those hives without.
See, that was what I was
gear.
going to ask is, the stinging part of it. Of course, I'm sure that's the question you get a lot.
So I became, I guess it's part of it.
How many times you get stung regularly?
When I was in Hawaii,
Yeah.
and I was stung probably 40 or 50 times. Couldn't see my knuckles, couldn't see my bones and my wrists.
Swollen?
Oh, yeah.
So much?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
And like,
so I was like, man,
was it something that like just you were doing wrong early on? Like, was there something, you're maybe nervous about, and like as you do it more, you just get more comfortable and the bees get more comfortable around you, or what is it?
all the above.
Yeah.
All the above. Yeah. I had no idea what I was doing. As mentioned, it was a crash course.
Yeah.
When I got there and, the gentleman I was up there with, he said, well, here we go. Let's go at it. And I'm like, I don't have no idea what I'm looking for, but okay, I'm going to try to find it.
Yeah.
And basically what we were looking for was we wanted to make for sure that the queen was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned real fast how to spot a queen.
So that's kind of one of the most important. Is that why some people are like nervous and checking their hives all the time? Are they looking for the queen, or are they looking for the production?
I think,
or they're just curious and they can't.
I think people that are in their hives are simply curious.
Yeah.
That are in them quite often. And maybe they're, I don't know, infatuated with the hive. They want to see more and more and more. But it's not like having a house pet.
Yeah.
It really isn't. I mean, they are insects.
Yep.
So being in the hives once a month, I've noticed that I really don't have many problems at all.
Is that you harvest about once a month? How often are these hives ready to harvest?
Late July.
Late July? That's a waiting game.
That's when the harvest that happens typically, unless you're going after a certain, like the black locust.
Yeah. So that black locust one is how long?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And if it storms and there's a heavy wind, it's over. Because the petals are so delicate, they simply fall off.
Oh.
The tree.
So it's luck of the draw that year. If
you're
get some black locust honey or not.
Yep.
And then after that initial harvest, which I'm assuming is a very small harvest, it's till July.
Late July.
Wow.
Yep. And then quickly in August, there's usually what they call a dearth period, where there's not much that the bees bring in, if anything at all. There's simply not much blooming, which around here, August, that's typically real hot.
Yes. Yeah.
Things are scorched, they're burnt. Now, if we have, rain during August, then I've seen, clover still come up, and there's other little flowers that will come up that they could potentially go, after. But for the most part, August, and then, there's nothing going on. And in the commercial beekeeping world, that I'm understood that that's a good time to treat hives. So they have different types of treatments. And one of the main treatments that they want you to do and encourage is varroa mites, which would essentially be like you and I would know as a tick.
Yeah.
As a tick gets on us and burrows into our skin and does whatever it does, can also cause diseases in us.
Okay. Yeah.
Varroa mites, for me, I can parallel to a tick. They get onto a bee and they'll
hitchhike back to the hive,
and they'll put They'll put diseases into the hive. They can bring disease into a hive, but they'll get into the cells and they'll start laying eggs, and they can really cause an issue inside of the beehive to where the population inside, they could chew on their wings. I've heard the bees' wings. And then you start setting them bees back. And then if the population isn't big enough to where they could fend off these, I call them parasites.
Yeah.
Then the hive is going to collapse at some point.
Can you see those, like visually notice them whenever they're there?
Yeah. So I've never treated for mites up until this year. This has been my first year.
Yeah.
So in past times when I've learned that when I've lost beehives to, let's say, beetles, beetles are a big thing for beehives in this area, a little black. But typically the bees, if you have enough population, they'll corral them to a certain area and then they're just fine. I mean, they keep them in an area. There's moths that can get in there and they can really wreak havoc on the hive. But from what I've gathered from other beekeepers is there's a reason why the beetles or the moths has taken over the hive, and it's most likely been as a result of varroa mites.
Yeah.
They were already compromised
the
to begin with.
Weak, and so there's an opening for something else to come in as well.
Yep.
And it's not the one thing that kills the hive. It's now all these things coming at the hive at once.
Exactly. Yeah. So for that reason, this year, especially being at the level that we want to get at, I need to take extra precaution to protect my investment.
Makes perfect sense on that end.
Yeah.
Speaking of the honey, though, so you've got your regular honey. I know here you've got one that we've been we played around with the other day, and we're trying to figure out your smoked scorpion honey. How many different kinds of honeys do you do currently?
So right now we have 8.
I didn't expect it to be that much.
8.
Yeah.
So I love super hot peppers.
Yeah.
I like to grow them. And it used to be comical for me to watch the reaction on people's faces. Whenever somebody eats them. I quickly changed that here recently to the point to where, proceed with caution. You don't have to be macho to try. But what I will say about super hot peppers, eat super hot pepper. And what that means by super hot, that means it's super hot. Mm-hmm. So each super hot pepper has its own flavor. How are you able to appreciate that flavor if something is burning your mouth so much you can't taste it?
Yeah. It's if the only thing is it's your taste buds are just covered in that heat, you can't get anything else from it.
No. So that was the design of the honey product, the spicy honey. So we typically grow everything from seeds. When I say typically, there were 2 years to where we outsourced that to somebody else. Simply, I just couldn't keep up. I mean, it was too much.
Was it the early years of the popularity of it?
At one time we had 179 plants at our house, and for me to care for 179 plants and power washing and my life, I mean, it was I was oversaturated. I mean, I was spread so thin, it got to a point to where the phrase "burning the candle at both ends," I was able to see exactly what happened as a result. So I simply could not take that on, not at that level. So, but we do grow things now this year again from seeds, and then everything goes into pots and it stays in pots. Nothing goes into the ground. We have a shade cloth area, and we try our very best to keep the wind from these plants cross-pollinating. That way, every pepper plant stays true to its form, its color, and its flavor profile.
And what kind of which ones did you do in the past, and are those the same ones you're planning on?
Same ones. Everything's the same. So we use a ghost pepper.
Okay.
We use a Carolina Reaper. We use a chocolate Butla, a chocolate Primo Reaper, a Jay's Peach Ghost Scorpion, and Trinidad Scorpion Butch Tea.
Super hot, super hot, super hot, super hot.
Yeah. But each one, believe it or not, a Carolina Reaper has a very sweet taste to it. And that honey we named the Reaper's Edge. It's my wife's personal favorite.
Yeah.
And she doesn't like hot stuff, but she really enjoys the Reaper's Edge.
Because of the balancing out that happens whenever you do the honey with the heat, or
it's the actual flavor from the pepper. You can truly enjoy the pepper flavor in the honey because the honey tames it down, tames the heat down tremendously. You know, it's when you first tried this, if I were to give you that pepper, I'd say that pepper is close to the same heat level as a Carolina Reaper.
Yeah.
You know,
and if you were just eating straight the pepper, then
you can't enjoy anything. Yeah, you're on fire.
Yeah.
You know, so this smoked scorpion, this has a smoked with wood. It's a pecan wood that we use on this one here. We've done apple wood. I'm gonna try some with cherry wood.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. But this is actually brand new. You know, recently came out with this.
First time adding a smoked aspect to it. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, you're really playing like you're going kind of. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. It's a lot of like, or almost cooking aspect of it, like throwing more ingredients into the thing to make a finished product, which I guess adds more uniqueness to it as well, right?
So the spicy honey, there was a barbecue team. I'm wanting to say it's been every bit of maybe 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Guy's name is Frank Cox, smokerbuilder.com. Really good dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he's as golden as they come. But when I was hanging around Frank, learning how to barbecue and learning their ways of barbecue and the lingo and all the different stuff, because I didn't know anything about it. So I quickly became experimental. I started doing dehydrating berries, different types of vegetables, fruits, and ghost peppers. So I would mix these together and make a dry rub out of it.
I was gonna say, what were you using these things for?
Dry rub.
Yeah.
So I would cook with that. Well, the problem was with the ghost pepper, it simply was too hot for everybody. They couldn't, and they would simply say, Curt, it's too hot. You can't even taste anything. So it was a mistake. Well, I shouldn't say mistake. It was a God-given thing, but I had it. I had a slab of ribs, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put some honey on here. Let's see what difference it makes. So when they were to cooking temperature, I opened them up to breathe a little bit, and I drizzled honey over. I wrapped them, let them rest. That was where this was born.
Yeah.
So when I bit into the ribs, I could finally taste that ghost pepper, but it wasn't hot. It was barely enough heat to where you could taste it. Mm-hmm. And that's where everything started as far as the spicy honey.
And now this is the launch of the new product now.
This is the launch of the new product. I think we launched the spicy honey for the first time 4 years ago.
Okay. I know Jody uses your spiced honey at Clara Bees, right?
She does. So she uses
chicken sandwich.
She uses the it's called the Scorpion Sting. That's the Trinidad Scorpion. That's the honey she uses. There's a restaurant, microbrewery in Waterloo, Hopskeller.
Yeah, very familiar with Hopskeller.
So they use it on their pretzels, I think skewers. They have a pizza called the Paradise City that they use it on. And then in Rolla, Missouri, at a place called Scruff's, an American Taco, they use the ghost pepper honey. They use it on chicken. Ron, the owner, and Vanessa, they use it's called sweet jalokia.
Yeah.
They use it in a like a jalapeno relish as well, and then they put it on sweet potato fries.
Sounds really
So
good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but this is my passion, man.
Yeah.
This is what I enjoy
So
doing.
is this the start of you branching into even more of this kind of stuff?
Yeah, honestly, I'd like to. My wife would kick me in the butt for saying this, but I would like to do this full time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would get out of power washing in an instant
yeah.
if this was able to, you know.
I mean, the way that you're growing it seems like the passion and the research that you're putting behind all of this, it's no reason why it could, right?
It will.
Yeah.
It will. It will. So that Frank Cox had sent me a podcast not too long ago, and it was for entrepreneurs, and it truly opened my mind to a lot of things. And I have time now that God has opened up to where I can truly start pushing this product, and I can start promoting what this is about.
Yeah.
And we're excited. I mean, I'm truly, truly excited. My long-term goal for something like this would be, I would love to have this in a Schnucks, a Deerbergs,
Yeah.
a Straub's, those locations I think could really,
Local markets to really shine.
they could showcase this really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. As of now, I don't know that there's any product out there like this.
I mean, it's the first I've heard on my end. So I would say, and it's a great product just from me eating at Claire B's all the time and getting that hot honey chicken sandwich. I'll say I enjoyed a lot. And, we're talking about trying to play around and figure out how to make a, spicy honey latte in some sort, or adding it to some pour over coffees in a way. Finding flavor combinations on that really blend well together. And it's exciting for me to be able to work with you on that side of things, because it's like, you said you have that passion for mixing things together and finding new flavors. And that's the same on my end of finding different coffees to roast and different ways to brew them, and the flavors that can come of it, and different ingredients to add in. And, I think seeing that similar passion, that's how I connect with people.
Sure.
I like people that have those similar passions. And I know you were even talking to Tyler, one of our other podcast guests, just before this, and he was talking to you about how he wants to use honey to blend into things as well, and mix. And I think there's plenty of room for more innovation to come, especially in the honey section of everything.
Yeah. Well, I will say, when you and I spoke about this and the coffee, the idea of mixing heat and coffee, and spice and the flavors and the different profiles. So in the meantime, I have a friend of mine that him and his wife went to Michigan, and there's a little coffee shop that they went to that was offering a spicy honey in a coffee.
Okay.
And he called me and said, "Hey man, we got to get some of your spicy honey and mix this up." And I'm like, just pump the brakes a little bit, hold on for a minute. Because I'm truly excited to see what you can do with this.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun thing to play around with.
Yeah.
Well, Curt, it was a pleasure having you with us. I would like to ask, is there anything you want to shout out? How can people find you, your business? How do they get a hold of your product? How do they reach out if they want to know more? Best way to contact you.
So right now, Facebook.
Yeah.
The Blessed Bee Company. That would be the best way to contact us. Our phone number, you can contact us by phone, but really Facebook is probably the best place to go.
Yeah. Is your coffee, sorry, I'm on
honey.
Is your honey offered locally anywhere yet? Have you got some niche?
We do. So, Kirkwood Farmers Market.
Okay.
They sell a lot of our honey, quite a bit actually. We've got beehives in Sunset Hills and Kirkwood for them. Trying to think where else. Schubert's in Millstadt. They carry our honey.
And then soon to be a lot more.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah.
My wife, that's more up my wife's alley than anything else. I think we're in like six or seven different areas that our stuff can be found.
You're the man behind the bee veil, and she's the one out there talking and selling.
She'll let me know what's needed.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know where, but she simply lets me know what's needed and goes from there. But my wife's originally from Millstadt, so knows a lot of local folks.
Well, if you're looking for them, the Blessed Bee Company, find them on Facebook. We will make sure we have their Facebook linked on our profile, a phone number for you too if you need to reach out to them. But if you're looking to try it, definitely come into Clara Bees and try their hot honey, or maybe soon to be at LongStory for our unique menu item of a hot honey coffee on our menu. So once again, thank you, Curt. It was a pleasure talking to you, hearing your story. Anything else on your end?
Keep God first.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Curt. And look forward to seeing you again soon when you're in here dropping off honey.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the time.
Well, thanks again for listening in to this episode of Long Story Short podcast. We appreciate all of the support and love from all of you guys. If you are looking for ways to help the podcast, the easiest way ever is to hit that subscribe button on whatever you're listening to, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever it may be. Just hit like and subscribe. It really, really helps us get up farther in the charts, helps us get noticed in search results. Other ways to come support is to find Owen Pye, who is the producer of this show for us. So definitely give him a look out and check out his work. He does phenomenal work just editing and shooting this podcast for us. Or come and support our coffee shop, LongStory Coffee in Belleville, Illinois. If you're not local, hit us up online, longstorycoffee.com, and you can get any of our fresh roasted coffee shipped directly to you in stores or to your house. Thanks.